What's going on, everybody? I am NFL Reality Check. I appreciate you guys for joining me. It's been a long time. I have a special guest with me. It is my honor, my privilege to introduce you guys to my boy Phil. He is from the Trending in the AM with Liam over there with the Philly Sports Network. I appreciate you, sir, for coming on. We have talks every morning, and now we finally get to do it face to face. So appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you having me on, my man. When you said it, and I'm like, dude, you support me, I gotta support my man. Reality Check here, and get on with him. And I'm just glad to see the face that goes along with the name now. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
now can
yeah.
put a face to the name when you put a comment in the comment sections on my show. I know what you look like now. I can come
Right.
find you now.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, first off, you won't have to go pretty far, I don't think, because I got to ask first and foremost before we start, man. What this pizza, okay? We talk about it every morning. What was this a family thing? Like, was it handed down to you,
No,
or
yeah,
did you
no.
just wake
I own
up
a
one
pizza
day and
shop.
was like, I want to own a pizza shop, and we're doing it? Like,
There we
you
go.
know,
There's my menu right there, Fox's Pizza.
yeah,
No, my wife and I were crazy nuts and said, let's open a pizza shop. So we've done
that's
it now for 15 years. We're in Kennett Square, little suburb just south of Philadelphia. Actually, I always tell people we're like dead, like we're a Philadelphia suburb, but we are literally smack dab in the middle of Philadelphia and Baltimore. So I'm a big Eagles fan. I'm a
okay.
big sports fan, but I get it from both sides. I get Ravens talk coming into my shop. I get Baltimore Orioles talk coming into my shop. I get
Yep.
it all. I get it from both sides. So it's a crazy, crazy life. I do a show 5 days a week, 90 minutes a day. Then I leave this room, this office, and I go right to my shop. So I had the night off tonight. So I figured, let's jump on and talk a little football before the Sixers game tonight.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Because it's almost sacrilegious in my household not to go 1 week without pizza. We at least have it 2 or 3 times a week. So, yeah,
I always tell people pizza is a recession proof business.
I
'Cause you can always feed a family cheaply on a pizza. You know what I mean?
You're right,
So
man. You're right. No, that's awesome, man. Definitely will get down there sometime when I'm in Philly and definitely stop by and get some. But yeah, definitely welcome. If you are new to the channel, appreciate you guys. If you're here from his channel, I'll probably talked to you before. Thank you guys for coming. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Appreciate it. All right, man. So it's been a while. I haven't really talked to many people. Going actually going into the bye week, we've had our first 9 games. How do you feel about this team right
the
now as we
Philadelphia
sit
Eagles, how
coming
do
down?
I feel? I feel a lot better than a lot of people do, and I know you listen to my show all the time, so you know my feelings on this. The NFL is super, super average right now. There are so many average teams. Some say it's parity, some that's what the NFL wanted. But you know what? The averageness of the NFL, I kind of feel like makes what the Eagles have done going 8-1 in this league the way it's set up right now that much more impactful than it actually is. People are talking down, well, you haven't beaten a good team, you lost to the Jets, this or that. Jalen Hurts has a few turnovers more than last year, whatever. They're 8-1. in a league where 20 out of 32 teams have 4, 5, or 6 wins. That's as average as it gets. So I think it does make. I think that's the first time I've used that word. More impactful, the 8-1 record when you think about it that way. And that's where I'm at going into this bye, coming out of the bye. We've got this super tough schedule ahead of us here, but how tough is it? Because a lot of the teams have just fallen into that super average, bubble that so many other teams are. We know what the Eagles are. We don't know what the Bills are. We don't know what the Seahawks are. We don't know what the Cowboys are. We know what the Eagles are. They're 8-1 in an average NFL. So I think that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, man. No, I'm with you. I understand there is some people out there who, are a little shaky with how this season has played out so far. I understand that they are. Everyone looks at last season as such an amazing season, and because it is the same offense, they just expect the same thing. You know, um, things will change even though Brian Johnson was promoted within. Brian has his own way of doing things compared to what Steichen did. Yes, the scheme and everything will stay the same, but certain things are different. You know, um, I really feel the same way you do about these next 3 games. You look at Kansas City, you look at, the Buffalo Bills and the 49ers. Now, the 49ers did look good last week. I'll give them that. They did.
But how did
But
they look the 3 weeks before that?
exactly. No, I'm with you. And definitely we will get to the 49ers. But I look at Kansas City. Their offense is just an empty shell of what they were last year. Other than Kels, I'm okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's really nothing there. Defensively, amazing, man. This is one of the youngest defenses on the whole NFL, and they are performing at a very high level right now. So it is going to be a good matchup, offense and defensively for us. But ultimately, I don't really see it being an issue. You look at the Buffalo Bills. The Madden curse has hit Josh Allen. Truly. Like, dude, I'm sorry, man, but it's that game was, dude, you saw it written all over his face. You knew that play was coming. You got caught with 12 people out there. How? I have no idea. And then you
Yeah, yet the offensive coordinator was fired for the special teams having 12 guys on the field.
Yeah.
Buffalo, man, you got to feel for Buffalo fans. They're all in on Josh Allen and whatnot. But man, Sean McDermott, that was one of the I did a show early before the season started, and I talked about coaches that were on the hot seat this year, and I
Yep.
got laughed at when I said Sean McDermott was on the hot seat. Now he's not going to get fired before the season ends, but man, I got to tell you, there's a chance he don't make it. After the season, unless they make a miraculous turnaround, that's got to be one of the most disappointing teams, in a long time. It's almost got that Andy Reid-esque early time in Philly vibe, where they just can't get over the hump. And it took
Yeah.
moving on from him and eventually getting Doug Peterson to get the franchise over the hump. Sean McDermott he's a disappointing head coach without a doubt.
Yeah, no, man. He's been there 4 or 5 years now, right?
Yeah, I mean,
No, something like that.
at least 4 years. I mean, how long's
Yeah,
Josh Allen been there for now?
I think he's in his 5th year.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
think he's
he's
been
been
there
there for
since the
5.
beginning of Josh Allen's tenure.
Yeah,
So,
you've had a great defense
mhm.
over these last 4 or 5 years. Now somehow that great defense falls off, comes back on, falls off.
Mhm.
You've had a really good offense. You can't say they haven't. Stephon Diggs is amazing. Josh
Mhm.
Allen, amazing talent. Obviously, Singletary's good. Look what he's doing in Houston. A lot of people were, even me, I'll admit it. I was saying Singletary was holding them back, but obviously I was a little wrong on that one, because they can't even get it done with Cook. But this team, man, they do this every year. We talked about it on one of your shows that one morning. What are they? Who are they? Every year we always ask the same question, and every year we always are like, "Oh, Bills are going to be in the playoffs," but will they? And if they will be, what are they?
Yeah,
It's hard.
I think the Bills are a perfect comparison to like the anti what the Eagles are. Josh Allen is like the perfect anti to what Jalen Hurts is. Josh Allen, he makes a lot of mistakes. And, and,
Yeah.
and what does he do? He makes excuses. People make excuses. They blame the defense. They blame the drops. And, the interception, was it Sunday night or Monday night they played? They played on Monday night, right?
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah. The interception when he threw earlier in the game over the middle to Gabe Davis, and it
Mhm.
bounced off Gabe Davis's hands and into somebody else. He's made that same mistake, and I blame Josh Allen, because he's made that same mistake dozens of times. The announcers were like, "Oh, he threw it and it bounced off his hands." He threw a fastball. Gabe Davis can't catch fastballs. He should know that by now. Jalen Hurts, if he makes a mistake with the first game of the year for the Eagles, there was that miscommunication between Jalen Hurts and DeAndre Swift. DeAndre
Mhm.
Swift turned one way, the throw went the other way.
Yeah.
There was an interception. Guess what? Jalen Hurts hasn't made that same mistake again. Josh Allen has made the same mistake over and over again. Josh Allen's in that Justin Herbert category. A guy that he doesn't have the clutch gene. He makes the same mistakes over and over again. He doesn't take ownership of the team's failures. Jalen Hurts, he didn't lose the Super Bowl for us, but he took full responsibility for losing the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There's just such a difference between Josh Allen and the Bills and the Eagles and Jalen Hurts right now. And it comes from the leadership at the top with Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen. And I guess to an extent, Nick Sirianni and Sean McDermott as well.
Yeah. No, and you're not wrong. McDermott has had a lot of time. To me, his butt's on the hot seat, and I like
Got it.
the other coach too that you just brought up with Herbert and Staley. Staley should be on the hot seat as well. I mean, dude, you've had a pretty decent team for the last 3 years, and you haven't made the playoffs one time with them. So,
But at what point do you stop blaming the coaches and blame the quarterback? The quarterback's the highest paid person in all of sports, basically. You know what I mean? Outside of a few baseball players and a few basketball players, it's the most important position in sports. And Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, whoever, everyone keeps saying it's Staley's fault. It's they don't have a defense or they don't have an offensive line or somebody got hurt. Well, Justin Herbert had a 31-3 lead at halftime of a playoff game last year against the Jaguars and blew it.
yeah,
All right. So I don't want to hear it Staley's fault that Herbert came up small did not score once in the second half. Is it Sean McDermott's fault that Josh Allen throws 2-3 interceptions every single game? Yes, some of them aren't directly his fault, but I still go back to that Josh Allen interception on Gabe Davis on Monday night. And I just can't get over the fact that he's thrown that same Brett Favre type fastball over the
Mhm.
middle that his wide receivers just aren't capable of handling. They're just not good enough to handle that. He should know better. Justin Herbert does the same thing. He just assumes that everybody's going to catch everything, and he just gunslings it up there. But it's everybody
Well,
else's fault.
I,
I want some blame put on these quarterbacks that are ranked ahead of Jalen Hurts. Some blame put on these quarterbacks that get paid more than Jalen Hurts, that get the respect that Jalen Hurts deserves. It's time to stop putting the blame and deflecting the blame. It's time for them to take ownership.
yeah. No, I feel you, man, because you look at last year, we'll use the Super Bowl for example. Pat Mahomes on one leg goes out there, he wins it. None of us say nothing. Props to him. It was a great
Yeah,
game. I'm not taking
absolutely.
anything away from it. If anything, the refs blew a great ending of what could have been, but other than that, it doesn't even matter. It was a great
Right.
game up till the very last minute of it. It was fantastic.
And even that wasn't. I mean, I don't blame the refs for that
No,
situation.
I don't. I
It
mean,
was it was it was a ticky tack foul, but it was a foul.
the only thing I give them shit for is you didn't call it all game.
Absolutely.
So if and that's something that me and my stepson have a long conversation about every time. I believe the NFL needs to sit these guys down, and we need to start making it to where unless let them play for the most part, unless it is a blatant foul that truly, truly, truly affects the play. Like there is holds, obviously call them. Especially if it affected play, all that stuff. But sometimes, man, you got to let these guys fight, especially when it comes to the wide receivers, corners. That's what these guys do. That is their job. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
I'm not sure how old you are, but back in the day, Eric Allen, he made his name on being
Right.
able to hand check. You know what I mean? Wide
Yeah.
receivers made their game by being stronger than the cornerback opposite them. It's just a different game. And I don't even really care whether they call those plays or not. I just care about consistency. You know what I mean? If you're going to call it
Exactly.
all game, call it all game. If you're not, then don't. But it's also holding these referees accountable. And I'm going to use a baseball example here on a football show. When the Phillies got knocked out of the playoffs, I forget what the umpire's name was. He was in his something like ninth, playoff run call or umpiring games, but he had one of the worst records of accuracy this year in baseball. He had also been kicked out of college baseball being an umpire because of sketchy behavior as an umpire. Yet
Mhm.
instead of not rewarding him, you reward a guy that's got a bad track record, has a bad statistical year as an umpire, and how do you reward him? Instead of sitting him down and saying, you don't get that playoff bonus check, we're going to give it to somebody better than you. We're going to let you umpire, home plate umpire, in an important playoff game. And guess what? He had an awful game. He missed calls for both teams. So, holding referees accountable in all of the major sports, basketball, baseball, football, maybe hockey. I don't watch enough hockey to know.
Right.
It's an epidemic to an extent where these guys are not held accountable for their mistakes or their lack of consistency. I think
Well,
I would take a ref or an umpire that's leaning one way or another as long as they're consistently doing it.
let me throw this at you then.
Mhm.
Here's a good solution for it. If we can find these players for hits, if we
Yeah,
can find these players
I know where
for
you're going.
uh, you know, um personal fouls for celebrating too long in the end
Mhm,
zone, and doing derogatory things or whatever the hell you want to find them for,
mhm.
then we should be able to fine refs for making bad calls. If
Yeah.
you start fining refs, it will make them not want to keep making bad calls. But right now, you have there's no punishment. They can just do.
Well, there's supposed to be punishment,
Yeah.
and it's written, and every sport's slightly different, but it's written up in a sense that there's supposed to be losing the prime time. Like you get paid more if you're refereeing a Monday Night Football game versus a
Yeah.
1 o'clock game on Sunday. You get paid extra for refereeing playoff games or the Super Bowl. In baseball, I don't know how they track it in football, but in baseball, they track every ball and strike call, every
Yeah.
play at first base, everything. And they get a report card in baseball, the umpires. And it's supposed to reward the umpires with the best report cards, get the bonuses of the playoff games. And the worst ones get stuck at home. And if you're supposed to be, and I've never seen it happen, but it's in writing, if your report card is bad enough, you get demoted to the minor leagues. But yet, instead of actually following through with what's the rules, they
Yeah.
just keep giving the veteran umpires just the same thing in football. The veteran referees keep getting the gig because they're unionized, just like a lot of other athletes in sports and all. The referees are unionized, and the unions stick up for their veteran people that have been around the longest and don't follow through with suspending or fine these guys. But they should definitely, I don't know how you fine them, but you definitely got to take away the playoff bonus checks from these guys when they have atrocious games.
Well, I mean, I look at it. I mean, if you can find my player $10,000 for you know a call, I don't see why you can't. I mean, honestly, how much do these refs really make? I've never looked into it, but I assume they make pretty
I'm
decent
curious. I'm
money.
gonna look it up right now while
I'm
you're
pretty
talking.
sure they make pretty decent money. So
Probably.
I don't think a $5,000 fine per bad call would be a outrageous thing to ask. It's not only helping us, it's helping all 32 teams. It's trying to get this shit under control. And the other thing is I'd like to establish what the hell a catch is already. I mean, there's certain things that we can do as the NFL
Cannot
moving
be right.
forward. What?
This article, the first thing that I popped up when I just typed in NFL referee salary, and I'm on Pro Football Network. I don't even know if that's a legit site or not. The average, okay, never mind. That was something different there. So the
Okay.
average referee, not the top guys, the average makes about 200 grand a year. So a $10,000 fine is actually that's a pretty 10 grand would be a pretty lofty punishment for them. Like 10 grand to Jalen Hurts. That's like, he's got that under his pillow. But to a referee, that would hurt them. 10 grand out of 200 grand.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's just something I've thought about. Something's got to be done. I mean, if we have to take accountability for our players, then you guys should have to take accountability for your employees who, are reffing our games.
I agree.
So, let's move on to the KC Eagles matchup, man. I think a really big piece this week that is going to affect this game is Dallas Goedert being out. Dallas Goedert is a very big key piece to our run game. I think we can all agree to that. He's one of the, if not the best blocking tight end in the whole NFL. I do like Alberto. I'm not sure how they're going to go with the offense this week. But I know they will do some things and shift some things around to fill in that void. But, do you see our offense kind of taking, any step back at all, like in the pass or run game with Goddard's absent being?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because on paper, it sounds like Dallas Goedert being out would be a major loss, right? And I'm going to compare this a different way. Lane Johnson, our record when Lane Johnson misses games is awful. Like we lose 9 out of every 10 games when Lane Johnson's not out there. The 5 games Dallas Goedert missed last year because he missed 5 last year. Do you know what our record was in those 5 games?
Probably didn't lose.
Don't think too hard. It's 5-0. We were 5-0 in the 5 games that did. So how is it that somebody like Dallas Goedert, as important as Dallas Goedert, one of the best in the league at his position, how come they're so good when he misses a game? Like, is a tight end just not that important of a position? I don't know how to answer that. But, yeah, the way I see it going, Alberto gets some more snaps. Jack Stoll, just like last year, will fill in as the blocking tight end. The targets in the passing game will probably go to Julio Jones. He's not really a tight end. He can't line up the block. But as long as you slide your blocking coverage to cover that, Julio Jones is a big body that can run the same style of routes that Dallas Goedert does. I could see that being a big part of what's he get, 6-7 targets a game. I could see 4 or 5 of them going to Julio Jones. It's another opportunity for them to try to get DeAndre Swift, into the game in the passing attack part of it. It's all we heard about all offseason, all training camp, all preseason. DeAndre Swift is going to be targeted nonstop. It hasn't happened. Maybe Dallas Goedert out gets him more involved in the passing game. So I think they're well equipped to handle the loss of Dallas Goedert. And the only reason why I say that is because they've done it before so well, even though it makes no sense that they do it so well. He's like the only player on this team that goes down and they just don't miss a beat. Yet he's one of the most important. It literally doesn't make any sense. As I'm saying it, and in my head, I'm thinking what I'm saying makes no sense, but it's factually accurate.
Yeah. Well, and you are right. Now, I would have to say my only difference between last year and this year is you could see our offense was definitely way more fundamentally sound. Now I don't think that is going to have a major factor. Like I said, if there is just a tiny bit, there is just a tiny bit. I don't think much will change. These guys know how to scheme this offense. They know what places or what pieces they need in place to make it work. I won't lie, man. I'm actually really interested in this defense more than
the Eagles defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the game I've had circled, and not because of the revenge factor of the Super Bowl. And I've said this plenty of times. I don't believe in revenge, like playoff losses, revenged in the regular season. To me, that means nothing. You know what I mean? So it's not a revenge game to me. But I'm curious about the defense in this game because all we heard about all offseason was how Jonathan Gannon screwed up last year in covering Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl. And obviously, Travis Kelce went off, had a huge Super Bowl. You could argue he deserved the Super Bowl MVP in the game even. And then in training camp, all we saw from Sean Desai, we saw James Bradbury sliding over to cover tight ends. We saw, Darius Slay. We saw different formations, which don't put a linebacker that's incapable of covering someone of Travis Kelce, in that situation. Now this is our first opportunity to see. We've had James Bradbury slide to the slot by default to cover wide receivers, and that didn't work out well. But will we see Darius Slay? Will we see Sidney Brown or one of the safeties covering Travis Kelce versus a tight end? And if Sean Desai puts a tight end, Nicholas Morrow or Zach Cunningham, who have both played well this year, on Travis Kelce, we are going to get destroyed again, just like we did in the Super Bowl. So we really, really, really got to hope that what we've heard about this defense all year long comes true on Monday night when we go up against Travis Kelce.
Yeah, no, listen, I think last year a lot of us can say Kelce murdered us in the Super Bowl. He did.
He pretty much did. Yeah.
So that should definitely be the big focal point, but we talked about some, I think it was this morning or maybe it was yesterday morning, there is no disrespect when I say this. I think Nakobe Dean is a phenomenal talent, I think that maybe he needs a bit more time, but he definitely is effective. He definitely does what he's supposed to. Okay. Now, saying that, if you look at the games that he was out at the beginning of the year, the 3 games he was missing, statistically in certain stats, our defense played better, especially in the linebacker position. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say it's because Cunningham and Morrow are more veterans and they've seen more and they can play more free, but there's just something there. They have a very good connection. And I even stated on your show a few weeks ago, I said I wouldn't be as inclined to insert him right away, even though he's healthy, because the chemistry that these two have right now moving forward, I wouldn't want to mess with it. Now, granted, it didn't affect it a lot, but you could definitely see there is a difference. So I just want to get you.
I don't disagree with you, and I said that too. Like, I'm a Nakobe Dean fan. He's had some bad luck with injuries in college and now in the pros. It's a shame. They've made the investment. I know it was only a 3rd round pick, but if he gets healthy and comes back this year, they probably will go back to him just because he is the investment. You know what I mean? Like, they spent the high draft pick on him. He's supposed to be the guy going forward. But I agree with you. If he comes back, which I don't even think they've officially announced whether he's even going on IR yet or not, I'm not putting him back out on the field this year. He can have that role of last year against special teams and fill in when necessary. Nicholas Morrow, he was a guy that I didn't have on my initial 53-man roster. Like, I didn't think he should even make this team. And he's done a damn good job filling in when called upon this year. And I think he's earned the right to stay out there on the field. Now, he might piss us off on Monday night if Sean Desai decides to have Nicholas Morrow covering Trent or Travis Kelce. That's gonna cause some agita, for sure. But
Yeah.
we'll cross that bridge when it comes. But at this moment, Nicholas Morrow has earned it.
Yeah, no, he has, man, and Cunningham has done a very nice job as well. And this is something that just needs to be said. It's not
Who would
hating.
have thought that Zach Cunningham would have the reputation right now that he does for Philly? Because when he was brought in the same day as Miles Jack, we all jumped up and down because of the name recognition of
Yeah.
Miles Jack, and Miles Jack couldn't even make the team. He actually went to retirement instead. And Zach Cunningham, who never really stays healthy, knock on wood, has played 10 straight games for this Eagles team and played damn well.
Yeah, no, man, I couldn't be more grateful, and I'm happy, man, because Howie seems to have this knack for finding linebackers, cheap linebackers that he can get to play at a really good level, whenever people don't really see it. So I give him props for it. Most
And then
people
let him
out
go get
there
paid
would-
elsewhere. And these guys don't TJ
Yeah.
Edwards ain't performing great in Chicago. Alex Singleton or Singletary or whatever his name was, he ain't doing much. He's still, I don't even know if he's still with Denver or not. These guys, he finds these cheap guys, they perform well here, and then they go elsewhere and fall off a cliff. I don't know what it is. How he just doesn't value that position, but man, he finds some diamonds in the rough when he can.
Yeah, he does, man, and he's doing a really good job. Now I look at the secondary. You got Slay, you got Bradbury. I really like how Sidney Jones has came about. He's really grown over the last few weeks.
Who?
Huh?
Never mind. Okay.
Oh, Blankenship. I think we all know what he is. But are you at all concerned with Slay or Bradbury at this point?
I mean, I, I don't know if I would say concerned. I understand why people are concerned. Obviously, they haven't. That last year, people were calling them the best cornerback duo in the NFL, and then this year they're not. Well, what's the big difference from this year's defense and last year's? Last year's defense almost set the record for most sacks in a season with 70 sacks. I don't know what the number is this year, but they're not setting no records this year. And a cornerback's best friend is a defensive line that is sacking a quarterback and not exposing them. And we already talked about how, you can't hand check, you can't do anything as a cornerback anymore. It's a hard position to play. And if your defensive line's not getting home, and what do I always say on my show? We lead the league in almost sacks. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah,
what that does is that leaves these cornerbacks exposed. And it not just exposed when you almost sack a quarterback, but to take 3 seconds to get to the quarterback. The quarterback steps up, evades you. That you're talking 5, 6 seconds that these cornerbacks are being asked to cover wide receivers, not being able to even sneeze on them without getting a flag thrown. I don't think it's as much as they've regressed a lot. I just think they were overrated to an extent a little bit last year because of the way the defensive line was getting home. So you help the secondary by Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox, all of the above, actually wrapping the quarterbacks up. Don't let them escape when you've got them under pressure. Get those sacks, hit them, knock them down. And then all of a sudden, you'll see James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Maybe their performances will uptick a little bit off of that.
yeah. No, I mean, we're coming off a team that had what 72 sacks last year. I mean, it's really amazing what we did, but we all knew that this team was not going to produce that this year.
I
Like
mean,
it
it's
just,
statistically impossible. I mean, there's a
yeah,
reason why the record has stood for as long as it did. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like, it goes back to Jalen Hurts too. People just expect those same like insanely high numbers from Jalen Hurts from last year. It's almost impossible for this Eagles team, offensively or defensively, to match the numbers that they had last year. But the one thing that them not matching the numbers, it doesn't matter, is they still can win games, even if they're
yeah.
not matching their numbers. And they are winning games. You know what I mean? So, you know, on the cornerbacks, I'm concerned, but not as much as everybody else is. It's working itself out, you know, honestly speaking.
Obviously, sometimes I have to ask these dumb questions because that's
You
what
ask
makes
whatever.
content. Yeah, it's what makes content. But in my personal opinion, I'm not worried about the defense. I'm not worried about the offense. Okay. We have a rookie coordinator on offense and defense for our team, rookies for us, and they are 8-1. Please show me anywhere where coordinators have done that. Very few, if any. It's very hard to win in this league, and yet it's very hard to do it when you're brand new. You know, um, this team is very scary. People need to worry. They are. I made the comment to my stepson the other day. I said, when I look at that Dallas game, dude, we beat you playing at our worst. And that was truly at our worst. I'm not gonna lie. Like that game, it should have been a lot worse on their end than what it really was. At one point we were up 17. I told you today, Phil, keep your foot on the gas and put your foot
Yeah.
on the neck. I understand you. It's an old tradition, an unwritten rule that just you don't want to humiliate people. No, I do. Like when you play us, I want to put up 40 every game. Like if
Mhm.
you can do it, do it. It is not my fault that your GM built a crappy team. Okay, that their job is to build a team like we have. And when they're not doing their job, it is not my fault. You know, I get it, man, but the reason why I say that is because even though we beat Dallas at our worst, they're sitting there the next day with high praises, thinking that they want a mental morale boost or something. And it's like, no, you guys got to realize, one, we beat you with a one-legged Jalen Hurts, not a two-legged, a one-legged, and two, we didn't play good. Hell, we gave you 80 yards at the end of the game, gave it to you on the 15-yard line, and you couldn't score. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think the whole they haven't played well, or they didn't play well on that in that game, or they haven't played as well as they should. That whole narrative, I kind of feel like, and I mean this with all due respect, it's kind of a bogus thing. I think they are who they are. It's not 2 games into the season. We've played 9 games, and like I said earlier, they were never. You're comparing, a bad. You and a lot of Eagles fans are comparing games this year to the team that performed last year. And that was what we might never in our lifetime see a team click, statistically speaking, like the Eagles did last year while Jalen Hurts was out there. So it's not that they haven't played a complete game yet or they're not as good. It's just last year's team was something special. That's why winning that Super Bowl last year was kind of important, because that was extra, extra special what they did. What we've seen is just the best this team is probably capable of doing, because they've kind of leveled out. They've kind of regressed a little bit to what they really are. They're still better than everybody else, but they're just not as good as last year. So I just want people to realize it's not that they didn't play their best game or they're not as good or what. They are who they are. It's 9 games in. They're 8-1. They're a very good football team in a league that is very average. And yes, sometimes the average teams are going to make you look bad, and sometimes you're going to kill the average teams. It's just kind of that line that we have to walk right now.
Well, let's not misconstrue when I say we had a bad game. I don't mean
we
it
won the game, so it couldn't have been that bad.
No, I'm talking as a fundamental football team. We had 9 penalties. We don't normally have 9 penalties. We have like 3, 4, sometimes 5, but we never have 9. I'm saying at fumbles, we had a few fumbles that game. Like there is things that we don't normally do that we did that night, and that's what I mean by it was a bad night for us. It wasn't
right.
bad.
But see, the thing is, like, you're saying that they don't normally do.
Yes,
but these are all things that they do normally do this year. They didn't normally do it last year, but last year was a different team. This year is completely different. So you got to kind of take out what you saw last year and think about it as just this year as a whole. And all the things you just described, like they're one of the top teams in turnovers. They have one of the lowest turnover differentials in the league, compared to other teams. They fumble the ball, they throw interceptions, they commit. We've had 2 or 3 games with 8, 9, 10 penalties this year. They're just not the same team as last year. And whether that's losing Gannon and Steichen, whether it's the rookie coordinators, whether it's Jalen Hurts' knee, and I think Jalen Hurts' knee puts a lot. Doesn't get talked about enough. How he's fighting through it, but also, some of his mistakes he makes is definitely because of that knee. Whether it's any of that stuff, this year is different, and next year could be totally different. So you got to take each year differently and not you can compare them, but you can't compare them like that because they're apples and oranges.
Now, I do understand we traded or we have a different offensive coordinator, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is the offense other than Swift not the same exact offense as last year? When you have a head coach who's still the same head coach, and all he does all day long is preach fundamentals, fundamentals, fundamentals. DeVonta Smith is still DeVonta Smith from last year. I mean, he doesn't change. AJ didn't change. AJ is still AJ. If not, he's even better. They're both better. They didn't make those mistakes last year. They are making them this year, but they're still the same guy. I can't excuse just because you say they were a different team. No,
I'm not making excuses.
No. I know. I'm just saying like that. That's where my point of view is at. Like when you sit there and you stress fundamentals like they do, It's really hard when you go out there and you drop a pass. Like that one game a few weeks ago, Devontae Smith dropped 3 passes. He never drops 3 passes, and the one was wide open. No one around for 10 yards, you know?
So the thing is, again, and this
Things
is the
happen.
counter to it, is that Devontae didn't drop passes last year.
Yeah.
But last year was last year. This year is different. There's more pressure on the team. Fundamentals are important, but
Yeah.
literally every single thing went right last year. There was never any of those bumps in the roads. We're having those bumps in the road this year. The fundamentals are preached. It doesn't mean they're executed, but in the end, when the crunch time comes, the fundamentals are being met and we're still winning the games in the end. So I think that's all that really matters. And I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not making excuses for the
Yeah.
mistakes. Those
Oh,
mistakes will come back and bite you in the playoffs for sure. If you're
mhm.
not fundamentally sound, that's how you blow a 31-3 halftime lead, like Justin Herbert did. But
You're
anytime I
not
can
going
throw
to
a
let
dig,
him live that one down, are
anytime I
you?
can throw a dig at Justin Herbert, I will always throw a dig at Justin Herbert. The biggest fantasy football quarterback there is out there, but I would never pick him to lead my team. Um, but like that's all it is. You know what I mean? It's like last year the ball bounced the right way every single time. The injuries have crept up nonstop this year. Last year,
Yeah.
outside of Lane Johnson tearing his groin and playing through it, who was hurt last year? Long term, nobody. Jalen missed 2 games towards the end of the season. That was it.
CJ, CJ,
Who?
CJ Gardner Johnson. Other
Yeah,
than
see,
him,
and that was it.
yeah,
This year, Blankenship's been out twice.
yep,
N'Kobe Dean's been out twice. Maddox went down early. Dallas Goddard. Robbie, we trade for, plays half a game, then gets hurt. Bradbury's missed time. Slay's missed time in games. Zach McPherson, people forget about him. He was supposed to be our top backup cornerback. He went down in training camp. Cam
yep.
Jurgens has been down.
Mhm.
Quez Watkins. I could keep going on. The names that have gone down this year,
Yeah,
this is borderline like 2020 when everybody was getting hurt. When in 2020 we had 37 different offensive line configurations. That's what this year's feels like. But they're
yeah,
still finding ways to win this year. And that's the difference.
yeah. No, and
Did I
and,
miss
and
any
that's
injuries? I think I hit on every single injury there. But I might be missing about 12 or 14 more there because there have been a lot this year.
no, there has been, man, and that is one thing that I love to see, that my team can battle through these injuries and they can come out the other side and they
Yep.
can win. That is the one thing that I will say. Last year we mollywopped damn near everyone. You
Yep.
know, and the one game that we did lose, it was to a division rival who knows us very well and sees us
Mm-hmm.
twice a year. So they eventually they were going to get lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that they didn't do was truly, truly win close, challenging games. You know, you look at last year when it came to the Super Bowl, we even stomped the mud hole in the 49ers the game before, the Super Bowl, but we then lose by 3. At least this year, my team has shown me that it doesn't matter if they're down, if they're up,
Mm-hmm.
they can finish. They can
Oh,
finish strong and they can win. Everyone talked last year. Are they battle tested? This year, they definitely are. Like that is the difference, I would say, between this
I know
team
the
and last
stats
year.
don't say it, but
Yeah.
wouldn't you prefer this year's team going up against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl,
Yes.
not this week, in
Yes.
the Super Bowl,
Yes.
this team more than last year?
Yes.
Because this year is battle tested. They
Yeah.
faced adversity. They keep coming out on the other side of the adversity better than they were before. Last year, they didn't face any of that. So I would almost, and I wrote this note down. I don't know if I've even covered it on the show yet. I take notes in my
Yeah.
shows so I could
Mhm.
catch up on points and stuff. And I wrote this down. I don't know if I wrote it today or yesterday. Hertz 2023 is greater than 2022. It said it right at the top of my page.
Yeah.
Statistically, that's not accurate. But the way he's fighting, playing through injury, leading this team, I will take this year's Jalen Hurts over last year's Jalen Hurts.
No, man, you're not wrong. I look at him last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at him this year. He's done a lot more in the pocket this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to become very comfortable at throwing the football, all the time. Like he's And I honestly believe, in a weird way, this injury is going to benefit him rather than
Mhm.
hurt him. You know, this injury has made him stay in the pocket. It's made him have to face things that he didn't have to normally face because bone bruises hurt. I guarantee you, when he was running, he was feeling pain.
Oh
Like
my
that.
God,
That's
yeah.
not, that's not something you just scoff at. They hurt. So it has forced him to be something that he's normally not used to being. And I think in the long run, it actually makes him a better quarterback than
Mhm.
what he was before the season started.
Absolutely.
You know. Um. Well, listen, man. I know you got your 76ers thing to get
Yeah.
to.
Got 10 minutes till the Sixers start, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not just a football guy, I'm a 5 for 5. Actually, we'll say 6 for 6 now. So we just
Yeah.
added a lacrosse team to Philly now, the Wooder Dogs. So, yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
try to stay up on every team, and I try to watch it all. My wife hates it, 'cause it's
Yeah.
all on TV.
Well,
Football,
I gotta get.
basketball, wrestling, and sports, that's it.
Oh yeah, man. Listen, I actually found something really cool out. My son was born with Down syndrome.
Okay.
And it's really hard to get him to watch things on TV. He's very meticulous about what he watches. It has to
Mhm.
be a certain thing, And I found out he really likes wrestling, which actually made me happy because I've been looking for a reason to watch wrestling again and tell the wife, like, because she used to walk in a few years ago. She's like, "Are you really watching that stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's man soap opera. That's what it is.
Your
That's
wife and my wife should talk about it.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, listen, you have your Young and the Restless shit. I don't complain. This is my Young and the Restless. And she's like, oh my god. So I quit watching because I just got tired of hearing about it. But now I have a legit reason. My son has given me a reason. Thank you. You know what I mean? So it's been fun getting back into it
Well, I don't know
and,
if you
and
heard, but
learning everything new.
I won something for the first time in my life. I don't know if you heard this. I called
No,
a radio station like 2 months ago. They were giving away WrestleMania tickets, which is in Philadelphia this year, and I won 2 tickets to WrestleMania. It's
there you
like a
go.
dream. Like, I've never been to WrestleMania. I've wanted to go to WrestleMania my whole life, but, I don't know if you know how expensive WrestleMania is, and then it's not normally in Philly, so you'd have to travel on top of it. Dude, the fact that I've got 2 free WrestleMania tickets and it's right 45 minutes down the road from me, dude, I'm still
That's
shocked that I
awesome.
won those 2 tickets.
Oh, do you mind me asking where they're at?
I have no idea where the seats are
Oh,
at yet. The radio station hasn't sent them to me yet. I don't even
yeah.
know whether they're the night 1 or night 2 of WrestleMania. I just know I get to go sit there and see the WrestleMania sign and live a dream and see that live and in person. Still
I'm
haven't
jelly,
decided who
man.
I'm taking yet.
I'm jelly. I'm super jelly. No, my brother got to go experience the one that was in Atlanta
Okay.
a while back. He said it changed his life. I'm like, well, yeah, I've been to some lives. I've been to Raw
Yeah.
live.
Yeah,
I've
I
been.
used to go to everything. I've been to the Royal Rumble, Money in the Bank, Raw,
Yeah,
SmackDown's house shows,
yeah.
but never been to a WrestleMania, and I am so excited for that opportunity.
Nah. I hope they decide to change the title for you while you're there, man. How better than to end Roman Reigns' career of title reign in Philly? You know what I mean? Like, why not?
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen or not. We'll
It
see.
needs to. I'm tired of seeing him.
I'm actually a huge fan. I would like to see him more often on TV, but I love what he's doing, man. I'm an old guy, man. I'm used to the special attraction of Hulk Hogan only showing
Yeah,
up every so often back in the day in the
yeah.
'80s. So he gives me that Hulk Hogan special attraction, Andre the Giant special attraction type vibe. I just wish I got to see him a little bit more
I
frequently.
know. It just feels like at this point you owe The Rock something, and you're
Well,
giving it
I
back
was there
that
at the Royal Rumble when Roman Reigns won, and they
yeah.
had to bring The Rock out to try to get people to cheer him, and all of us in Philly were booing The Rock when he came out because we knew why he was there. So, yeah, I don't know if it got muted on TV on the network or whatever, but we booed the hell out of him when he tried to get us all to cheer him. So, yeah.
No, that's awesome, man.
See, I'm a
Um,
well-rounded guy. I don't just talk football. I could talk anything. You watch my show, I
no.
talk music, TV. We talk about
Oh yeah.
pickles and stuff like that. We talk about everything on my show.
Well, you got me at pickles. I only know dill pickles, so. And what the little baby sweet ones? What are they?
I have no idea. I just know I went to a pickle festival last weekend, and everybody was making fun of me on the show on Monday for talking about it. So
How was it?
it was all right.
A
It was
lot
a
of
long day traveling to Baltimore to try different flavored pickles. We'll just say that.
Was this for the store? Like, did you do
No,
this
it's
for
just a
the store?
festival.
Or?
It's a long story. I can get into it off
Oh,
the air,
okay.
but we
All right.
found out there was this pickle festival, and we had to go to it. We rented a limo. There was 10 of us in the limo to go, so we can all
Oh,
have
that's awesome.
a cocktail or two and not have to worry about driving and stuff like that. So
That's
it was
cool.
a fun time though.
Well, listen, man, I will let you get to your 76ers. Appreciate you so much for coming on and
I
talking.
appreciate it.
Didn't get to all of the stuff I wanted to, but there will be another day. But yeah, man, appreciate you so much. Thank you all for joining us. First episode of the NFL Reality Check. Appreciate you guys being here. Please stop back next time.
Make
Have
sure
a
you hit
good
that
one.
like and subscribe button.
Thank you. Peace.